Hey everyone, today I'm going to do a patch review of the balance patch. I know everyone's excited to see what's going on. I've already taken a look at it, so I'm just going to go down the list, give my thoughts as to basically what each kind of thing means. This is kind of a boring patch, but I'm not sure it's necessarily a bad one. Okay, so first off, we have the Archangel skill 1 buff, Heavenly Sword, damage increased by approximately 9%. Obviously these are always kind of a joke to see the 9% damage increase, but at the same time, like, this is basically an Artamiel buff. 9% damage on a skill he uses all the time is, I mean, like, literally spams it. Isn't that bad. It is boring, but, I mean, whatever. Arda, I honestly, the weird thing about Arda is he already had a pretty high win rate in the situations where he does get used. So this is going to make him a little bit better. I don't know if it'll make him crazy, but we'll see. He still has, he still has his issues, but... All right, Dragonite Water, flow, passive, damage according to current increased, HP increased by 25%. Basically, it makes him do HP scaling just a little bit better than he did previously. I don't think this is going to be that crazy either. I don't see Chow use that much, honestly. But, I mean, more damage is more damage, right? He was already an okay counter pick in a lot of situations, so just doing more damage maybe isn't the worst. Again, not super exciting, but I don't think it's a bad change. Again, like, the problem is if you change things by big numbers and you mess it up, then you have to nerf it the patch afterwards, and so you end up making everybody mad. So doing things a little bit at a time isn't actually the worst. Anyway, Dragonite Light, aka Jaeger, King's Rage passive. When counterattacking, you go into the threat state. So this isn't that crazy. The only downside is that his revenge is not that high a chance. So, like, this is going to be pretty good into like teams where they have like a couple of AEs but not a ton, because if it's a team that has just a ton of AEs, then the threat state doesn't matter. The one plus side is that threat state does have a damage reduction associated with it. So if you think about this as he's basically getting a pseudo permanent damage reduction to make him even tankier without having to invest deep, like tank stats, then it's not too bad. I honestly, I don't think it's going to break him, but again, Jaeger's a unit that if they buff too much at once could be toxic. Like, and there's a lot of toxic units, so be careful what you wish for on buffing Jaeger. Like, eventually they're going to keep adding stuff until he gets good, and then everyone's going to be like, why did you do that? And Comtos is just going to be like, So, all right, next up we have Dark and Bison, aka Dark Slayer, aka Gurkha. His passive getting buffed. A lot of people, I mean, you'll know this, that they took away his healing factor from getting revenge. Now he's going to have damage reduction from provoked enemies. So if you think about it as more survivability, this is not as good as the healing, but at the same time, this does work into heal blocks, so he can't be killed by, or he doesn't get countered by heal blocks. I think this is going to make him more usable. I think people maybe have overreacted to his nerf anyway, because he is still like a crazy CC unit, but he does have a lot of counters. This will help him stay alive a little bit longer. Basically, I think the issue is they don't want him to be a one-man solo. They don't want him to 1v4, and so he has to have some kind of clock. And so in this case, they're making it so he just takes less damage. But straight damage reduction is kind of cool because it means he can't get sniped out as easily. So I don't know. This seems good. I'm really curious if people can make it work. I mean, some people still make Gurkha work anyway, and this is going to be a straight buff to those people. So, like, again, like pseudo toxic units everyone hated, they got nerfed or are just not insanely good. You have to be real careful when buffing. So I mean, it's good that they gave him an improvement, because I did think he was over nerfed, but he was gross. All right, Wind Monkey. His passive, when attacked under an ability, increases attack bar by 20%. So one thing I'm really curious about is this a multi-hit? If this is a single hit, I mean, it's pretty good either way, aka, the idea is that you can't really CC him and then just kill him without ever letting him move. He's going to eventually get attack bar. If it works like Rigel, however you want to say it, where he gets 20% attack bar per touch. So, like, for instance, Lora, you know, like hit multi-hitters, things that, you know, if a triple hitter increases his attack by 60%, so he can't get that, this could be a little bit wild because it makes him like almost unCCable. And he's already a fast unit anyway. I mean, people do build him kind of slow usually, but in either case, I think this is a good buff. Wind Monkey hasn't been seen a whole lot recently, but he is also one of those units that just gets more and more stuff added onto him, and then eventually he's going to be busted. And maybe this is it. Maybe like once you can't CC him, this is, you know, this is it. This is the one that takes it. Anyway, someone's going to try him. It's not going to be me. I'm not really a big turn 2 guy, as you all know. Dark Monkey King, Summon Clouds, not final, but a final buff to his third skill, potentially. They changed his third skill into being a multi-hit instead of a single hit. Now it's a 2 hits where he decreases defense on the first hit and then stuns on the second hit. So they say it's not a damage increase, but it is, because now he defense breaks for himself. So he's going to get, you know, like say what, like 50% more damage on the second hit. So it's like, you know, it's like a 25% damage increase, plus he gets more off of additionals. No buff to that stun rate. So people are still, you know, going to be unhappy about that because that's what everyone always wants. But at the same time, I don't know. It is a buff. I don't know if it's enough to make people like him. I feel like no one's going to be happy until it's 100%, even though that might or might not be good. Fast CC units are scary. Look at Lora. To be fair, she strips also. Let's see. But just imagine a Lora into Dark Monkey King violent team where they're both like 315 violent. Come on. It'd be so sick. All right. Next up, we have the potential patch winner, Wind Oracle, aka Ciara, Promise Time, used to decrease their attack bar whenever so her third skill detonates bombs, and then if she detonated a bomb, it reduced their attack bar by 30%. Now she's going to absorb the attack bar by 20%, whether or not they have bombs. So you're going to be able to do stuff like, you know, second skill bomb into a third skill absorb by like say 80%. You know, potentially 80%. And then, so you're going to be right in there. Like all you need is like, assuming you don't violent that turn, if you're still running violent, then you can violent on your next natural turn, which you only need 20% attack bar to get, and then have your bomb again, which refreshes this skill. Like it's possible, like, you know, there's like Diana montages. She's not going to be quite as insane as like say Diana, because Diana obviously could go infinite in one turn. But she's still going to be, she was already a pretty crazy turn cycler, and now she's going to be even crazier, and also basically is non-conditional. So, and again, speed lead. So Wind Oracle, this is, yeah, I'm going to say out front, this is number 1 or number 2 biggest buff of the patch. All right, next up, the Shadowcasters. So Shadow of the Right Arm, this is their, what is it, like it's like an armor break second skill on Fire, Water, Dark. Go under what they added is that you now go under the threat state. So basically you use your skill and then you're protected for a turn, and now they add a threat state. So it's what's kind of cool about it is it sort of forces people into that ability. So it's basically like a damage mitigation buff in a way. Like you're going to go under threat state and then force them to hit you. And also you can build them tanky and have them be actual tanks. This is probably bigger for the fire one because of the next buff he's getting than it is for the other two. But I mean, Minato, I mean, honestly, it's kind of wild. Minato was already a little bit nuts, you know, as a pseudo Douglas, but water. And now he has another tool in his toolkit. And maybe this is what makes him take off. Again, like I'm not sure that the meta realization of this is going to be immediate, but you're going to see a lot of people trying to play Minato and Ren after the patch, I think. Ren in particular is going to be really big, mostly due to this next buff that we're going to see. So the next buff is Ren's third skill, which is Destructive Shadow, which is the same thing. You go under the threat state, but this is on Ren, who has 120 base speed. So not only do you have the ability to steal all their ATB. So his third skill steals 50% ATB from each unit, as well as silences. But it also forces them to attack him. And so before, this was not... So he has 2 skills that would give him threat state. And also shield him. So where you're going to see this immediately is that now Ren is basically a counter to Sonya, because he's faster than Sonya and he doesn't have nearly as restrictive stat requirements. So people are going to basically be using Ren, potentially tanky, potentially not. It doesn't really matter because he's fire, so he has like a 50% chance to not get crit effectively. Actually, I think it's slightly higher. I think it's slightly higher because of the glancing chance. Or sorry, the glancing and the anti-crit chance. But yeah, so this is going to be like these 2 buffs on Ren are basically going to, you're going to see a lot of counters. So like if I draft Haegang, a big counter to it is to draft Sonya, and now people are going to be following up Sonya, or like counter picking the Sonya with a Ren because he's sort of like a hyper fast CC unit. So you'll be doing things like whenever they're a slow team with a single fast Sonya as a counter, you're going to see Ren as like a pseudo CC follow-up that also counters it. So it's going to be kind of a big deal, I think. And also Ren was really close to being usable anyway, like, you know, like potentially even meta. And this is going to, since Sonya is such a big deal right now, a direct counter to Sonya is pretty wild. All right, Lightning Emperor buff, Fire, Wind, Dark. This just brings them to parity with the with Geldnir and Bulwark. So those 2, the defensive emperors, gained knowledge passively whenever they had 2 or less, and now they gave it to the offensive emperors, Fire, Wind, Dark. So this isn't a huge buff, really, but it's nice. It's a bigger buff for her teeth than I think for the other 2, and that's specifically because usually like Wind and Dark are used as cleave units. Like you basically try to stack them to 5 on the first turn and do something. So this is mostly to give them extra knowledge during like follow-up turns. And also, like, for instance, Odin loses his second life whenever he doesn't have knowledge. So if you don't if you fail to snipe with him and then don't immediately have a buff, like in the next turn, then it's really easy for them to kill him. I mean, it's real easy to kill him anyway, but so this gives him a little bit of extra protection, and it gives Dark a little bit more of like the ability to stack buffs faster for follow-up turns. All right, Wind Druid. So this decreases the cooldown on his Resurrect from 8 to 7. That's like not that crazy, but I mean, all Resurrects are, you know, whatever. It's still a buff, and he's like kind of on the cusp of being okay. The big change, and I think this maybe is more for Siege Guild War stuff, is when attacking the enemy. Whenever he has his passive stacked up to the max, he now decreases defense for 1 turn. And so that'll be on both his S1 and his S2. So you're going to see some potential violent stuff where he like S1's armor breaks and then hits Wild Blow for S2. And then he has a bunch of defense because of his passive. So he's going to be kind of like a defensive nuker slash, you know, like he's a defensive nuker slash sustain unit. So I think this is kind of cool. I don't think you're going to see it in RTA, maybe. But it's neat anyway. It gives him another offensive option for a defensive unit, which is always pretty nice. All right, Barbara, Wind Beast Rider, Starve Attacking. So this is her 3rd skill, which increases ATB based on the damage done. So now the damage increased by 11% and then increases the attack bar gain of other allies in proportion to enemies' HP lost. So theoretically, this means that she's going to boost attack bar of the other allies more. Or at least you're going to hit the maximum amount easier, which depending on how you use her is going to be kind of nice. So this is where some people disagree, but I think she's actually better as like a follow-up unit than she is as like a swift initiator unit, because her base speed isn't enough to outspeed the really fast units, but her base speed plus accuracy awakening means it's really easy to tune her with incredible stats as a follow-up unit. So now she's going to be able to self-cycle with S2 and boost the rest of your team. She's basically going to be a really, really good like utility booster. Like she's basically like Masha, except more for making your team go more rather than being like a soloist the way Masha is. So I encourage people to try her out. I really like follow-up Barbara. So let's see. Fire Demon, Bale, Flames of Hell. This is his third skill, which puts on buff block removal, and it also puts on continuous damage. And I believe I was asking around because I never really got it to work, but I think the threshold is like 20% of their health or something like that, or at least previously was. So this doesn't give us numbers, just as eases the conditions. So like, for instance, if this is like 5% of their hit points and you can hit for 30%, then suddenly like you're putting on 6 conditions. I don't think it'll be that much. I think it'll probably be like it went from 20 to 15, but it might be a little easier. And if it went from like say 20% to 10%, then it might actually be worth getting pretty excited about. I've tried to use him before and it was pretty tough, but I mean, he is easy to build kind of because he has crit rate awakening and he always has elemental advantage. So you can build him like, you know, he basically has 45% crit rate against everything, which is really, really nice. So he's pretty easy to build. I'm really curious if he'll be useful. I'm definitely going to be giving him a try. Like the main place you'd use him is you can build him on Swift and then use him as your team's initiator, but also a follow-up, depending if you have like ATB reduction. So pretty cool unit. And he's been, obviously he's been underutilized. I mean, when was the last time you saw him anywhere? So hopefully he'll be good. Okay, Fire Hollyberry Cookie, the Macaron Guard. Instead of having a passive defense increase whenever she moves, it's now going to be an actual defense buff for 1 turn, which is a much bigger increase than the 30% defense. This is very similar to what they did with the light one, where the light one would get a stacking passive buff, and now they made it a defense buff because I think they realized that it's really hard to get a defense buffer in as well as the other stuff, and most people would prefer the defense buff, and now she kind of protects your allies as well. So I think this is a cool change. Again, she's still pretty hard to use though. I haven't seen her used very much, so I don't have a good idea of her place in the meta, but I think this is a pretty decent buff. Not very exciting, but it is a buff. All right, Steel Commander Fire Ezio. Ignores defense by an additional 20% to 30% when attacking an enemy without beneficial effects. So this sounds like it's not that much, but I believe this stacks with his other ignores defense, which just eases the requirements to like kill people with him. This might be good. I haven't done the math to figure out exactly how good this is, but again, this is one of those things where like due to the way that like armor is calculated, whenever you reduce their armor by a percentage, like the damage goes up non-linearly. So like this might be one of those, like again, like I haven't done the math, but this could very well be one of those situations where going from like say 20 to 30 increases his damage by a pretty large amount, but going to even like 40 means he just does 100,000 damage. I doubt it, but like you have to be really careful with like damage reduction abilities, especially whenever it's just passive on every hit. Like, you know, there's a reason why most defense ignore units like have at least an okay cooldown on it or some kind of like condition. This one has a condition, but it's not that hard to hit. So again, potentially good. I really want to try this one out after the patch, but you know, it's just more of the same of just making him better at doing the thing he already did. Let's see, Steel Commander Wind, Assassin Brotherhood. So this is like Wind Steel Commander / Ezio. Increases the skill cooldown of all enemies by 1 turn each, and decreases skill cooldown of all allies by 1 turn without condition. So he also decreases their attack bar. So he's just, yeah, he's almost literally like Dark Homunculus. So I don't know. I think that's cool. I mean, he's a 4-star, so maybe there's situation. I don't know if you would use him outside of Special League for RTA, but it's kind of cool. All right, so Wind Striker, Triple Crush / Wind Ryu. This is Kashmir. First hit now removes all beneficial effects granted on the enemy and decreases defense for 2 turns. So what's kind of cool about this is that he now, even if he doesn't crit, he will still try to decrease their defense, and he can't glance. He just, you know, has the chance to not crit. So like he's not going to ever glance this. So if you have accuracy, you basically have a strip into defense break on 1 unit. So it works very much like say Vanessa, but with, you know, the potential to just bump something out of existence. So he also, what's kind of cool about it is that this does increase his damage quite a bit. well, not quite a bit, but an okay amount, because now he'll have a defense break on the enemy for his second hit, which he did not have previously. So this is an actual damage buff. And that was one of the biggest problems with him. It was really hard to build, like his stat requirements to do good damage were really high because you had to have, you know, crit rate, crit damage, accuracy, you know, all that stuff on one unit. And I think he awakens into, he awakens into crit rate, which isn't too bad. So this is a great buff. I really want to try him. Because as I said, the problem before is he didn't do enough damage. Now he does more damage. Sweet. Water Phoenix, Sigmarus, Ice Volcano, damage increased by 16%. So this is, if this was an HP scaling attack, so if this is applies to that HP scaling as well, then this might be really good because you can use him in various PvE things. But this is just a straight PvE buff. Yeah. So Devil Maiden, Fire, Wind, Light. Here comes the Ghost. This is the strip ability. So what this ability previously had, so it hits 2 times and it strips on the first hit and it does the debuff on the second hit, and it's an 80% chance after skill up. So 50% plus 30% afterwards. So attack speed is a way better debuff than attack power. So the fact that you now have a strip into an attack speed, so he's kind of, all 3 of them are now basically like Zima in a way, is fantastic. Okay, that's really good. Like just that change in and of itself is quite good. But the thing is that's meant to combo with some of the later ones. Like this isn't just a buff to, like this combos with other stuff, and we'll get into that here in a second. So I'll just skip past that. So Devil Maiden Water, Bind Demon Bag now removes a beneficial effect from the enemy. So this is the thing where you shove them in your luggage and it like eats them. For 10 turns. So this is actually kind of a big deal because now, for instance, you could build her. I'm not going to say that you should do this, but a possibility is you can now build her on, say, Swift, and then just go right through someone's will without any other setup and just remove them from the fight for 10 turns. Like that is pretty good. Obviously, you're going to have some other stuff you're gonna have to do with it. Like for instance, you could, as an example, and this is just an example, you can say, bring Zabala to boost him into it. Like and just remove something from the game, like whatever it is that they're gonna be annoying with. Or like for instance, you can tune Water Maiden in front of your primary stripper and then say remove Haygang from the game. Like there's not too many units. Like essentially there's no strip oblivions in the game, and you can think of this as a pseudo strip oblivion. So now she's going to be a counter to Haygang as an example. There's going to be a lot of other situations where this comes up, but this is a very unique ability and potentially broken one now that she does that, because you don't have to bring a boost necessarily. You don't have to bring a strip in front of her. She's like a Sekhmet, except, I mean, she obviously is not as fast as one, but you just boop someone out of the game on turn 1. Like this is actually kind of good because, you know, if you have a backup Swift set that's like 310, there's going to be all kinds of places you can draft this that are just busted, right? Like if you're playing mid-range CC against someone else who's playing something like mid-range CC, you can just throw this unit in, like ban a strip, remove the other strip with this guy, you know, bring a Sekhmet, you know, like there's going to be a lot of stuff you can reset with a Sekhmet. You bring this, yeah. I'll stop talking about it, but this I think is actually potentially busted. I think this is all like maybe number 3 patch winner, maybe number 4 because I like the win better, but we'll get into it. Okay, Fire Devil Maiden, Bind Hounds of Hell. So before this hit 3 times, it was 3 different abilities individually. So it would do a 2-turn continuous damage. It would do a 2-turn hit point recovery, disturb, you know, anti-heal, and then it would decrease their attack bar by 25% in proportion to the number of effects. So like you could get potentially 50% attack bar reduction if you landed both of the previous 2 hits, because they would have a continuous damage, they would get a hit point disturb recovery. So now they got rid of the HP disturb recovery, which is kind of annoying and bad. Like that's actually kind of a big skill, so that part sucks. So that's just straight up a nerf. But it now hits 3 times. It does continuous damage 3 times, decreases their attack bar by 20% with each hit. So now the big thing here is that it made her, A, she's higher damage, and B, she's more consistent, and C, she has a higher cap on the amount of attack bar reduction. And also it's going to be more average, it's going to be distributed more normally, because now you have 3 checks for 20% each instead of 1 check for either 25 or 50. So like previously there's a chance, as an example, like in the worst case, you're attacking something water, right? You have a 50-50 chance, actually lower. You have like say a 45% chance to land a continuous damage, a 45% chance to land an HP recovery, HP or heal block, and then you have another 45% chance to decrease their attack bar by potentially 25 or 50%. So it ends up being, you have like a 36% chance to, no, you have like a 65% chance to get a debuff on a water unit, and then you have a 50-50 chance of like reducing their ATB. So you're looking at a 30% chance effectively on a water unit to remove any amount of attack bar. Now you have 3 chances, individual act checks with no previous checks. So you're looking at like an 87.5% chance to get at least 120%. So she got a lot better into like messing with water units, right? Like that is kind of a big deal. So basically she got more generally useful, but she got weaker in her optimal situation. So I do think she's still going to be good. And also she reduces ATB and slows. It's kind of a thing. So I think I honestly think this is a good change overall, because I think the second skill is way more powerful, but it does suck losing heal block. All right, the number 3 patch winner, I think number 3 is Wind Devil Maiden. So she now silences for one turn with a 30% chance if you attack an enemy with no harmful effects. So this goes up to 50% on her passive after skill ups. So the reason this is a big deal is that because her second skill consisted of 2 hits, she would strip on the first one, and then she would ATB, attack break on the second one. And that would mean that she could not, the other part of her passive is that she puts on buff block removal, but it only happens if they have debuffs, debuff removal block. And it only happens if they have debuffs. So the problem is that she could never, outside of a despair stun, she could never put debuff removal block on for herself, because she wouldn't put, by the time that she hit that second time, they would never have a debuff. Now she has a chance to silence on the first hit, or she should have a chance to silence on the first hit, after the strip, and then it'll activate the second part of her skill, and she'll put on potentially the removal block. So this is kind of a big deal, and also it's just another debuff that makes her cycle more. So this is, she can now put on 3 debuffs every time she hits. So she has like a 30% ATB gain just on every hit, like potentially. This is kind of a big deal, and I'm really, really looking forward to trying her out. All right, let's see. Fire Sylph, Phoenix Fury. Basically what they did is they changed his awakening. You'll see this later. They changed his awakening to make his second skill hit harder. So this skill, they basically just updated so that his third skill now has all of the awakening bonuses that it previously had. So now it's just a better skill. Or it's the same skill as before, but he has a better awakening. Okay, Briny Magician Dark inflicts damage proportion to max hit points. Now does it according to attack power. So you can build him as a nuker, kind of. Removes harmful and beneficial with a 70 to an 80% chance. So this previously had I think it gets a 10% on a skill up. So before it was an 80% chance, which is kind of bad. Now it's a 90% chance. I think I'm looking it up. Just off the top of my head, that's correct. Yeah. Oh no, actually no. It was a 70% with no skill up. So it went from a 70 to an 80. So this makes it more consistent. Like honestly, he was kind of wild before. You could use a certain, like there's a bunch of different units that worked with him pretty well. So maybe this will make him get used. I don't know. It's a pretty good skill though. There's not too many strip CCs in the game that aren't LD5s. So now it's an LD4, but everyone got this one. So Dice Magician Water, Dice Madness. The number is the same as the previous number. The attack is guaranteed to land as a critical hit. This just buffs his damage a little bit, and there's some super gambly shenanigans where you build them on pure crit damage, and then you try to Lucian them with a 15 crit rate unit. So it could be funny. So basically, it has like a 17% chance on the last on each dice after the first one to just crit. So we'll see. I don't know if that applies to the whole attack or just that individual hit. So if it's the whole attack, then the chance to auto crit is actually pretty high, like 50% or something. All right, Dice Magician Ludo. They increased his damage multiplier from his passive, but they also changed his the damage reduction to be like all allies, but much lower. So he's kind of a Darien now, but his damage is higher. I think he's going to be a pretty big siege unit. Like, I always thought Ludo was kind of busted anyway, so maybe this will actually bust him. Dice Magician Wind, attack bar revive allies increase. Basically, whenever you revive them, it adds up the numbers, and you can get, you can get everyone's ATB like goes up. So this could also be busted because I don't think he gave ATB before. I'm not really sure, but anyway, kind of cool. But I don't think you'll see it outside of Special League or Guild Siege or something. Okay, Water Lich. Speaking of Rigel or Rigel, decrease the chance of being attacked for crit hit by 25 to 30. So now you crit him even less than you did before, and increase his attack bar by 20 to 25%. So basically, he's going to be turn cycling and be way more toxic in Special League. I still don't think he's quite good enough to use in normal RTA, but maybe this makes him good in Siege. But in Special League, this is going to be wild. I think he was already annoying in Special League. Now he's going to be even more wild. Okay, Wind Lich, his passive. They increased the absorbing amount by 25%, so it's now bigger than it was previously. And also, whenever you break the shield, he auto counterattacks you with Deadly Touch, which does armor break. So it's kind of asking him to be built on almost a glass cannon, and then you like potentially kill them with it. I don't know. I don't know if this will be good enough to get used, but it's at least cool. And it might be used in some kind of PvE as well. Like, like you could use them in Giants, and I don't know, like Speed Giants is already solved. There's no reason to build them there, but maybe it's going to be another Special League change. All right, Dark Lich. So before he required 5 kills to stack up to 250%. Now he requires 3 kills, but he stacks up to 300%. So just a straight up buff. It accelerates faster. It's a bigger bonus. Grego is pretty cool. So pretty happy to see that. So straight buff to Dark Lich. Nice. All right, Jack-o'-lantern Firelight, harmful effect chance of their second skill, Ghost Appearance, now is higher. Buff, I mean, I never really used him that too much, but considering that they also buffed Light Jack-o'-lantern anyway, in a different way, let's see, what does that thing actually do? I haven't used Light Jack-o'-lantern pretty much ever, but he was already a little bit wild before. So it can weaken defense, attack power, and disturb recovery, and it increases according to attack speed. So he does a ton of damage, and he defense breaks for himself. And it's a 50% chance plus 20% more. So it's going to be a 70% chance after skill up. So he now is a armor breaking, speed scaling LD unit. And he's also immune to inability effects. Okay. All right, so effect added. The damage you receive from enemies who are slower than you is decreased by 20%. So he's now tankier, and he does that other stuff. And also, whenever enemies turn change, instead of him gaining attack power, he now gains attack speed. So both his skills are speed scaling. He gains speed 10 times, so he's going to get 150 extra speed for free. And he defense breaks for himself. Okay, so Light Jack-o'-lantern is going to be wild. Potentially not even in Special League. This might be in everything. It might just be Light Jack-o'-lantern's day now. Because remember, he's still unCC'able. You can't stop him from hitting you. Okay, it's wild. Okay, Light Jack maybe is patch winner number 3.5. All right, so he's somewhere in there, somewhere in the top 5. This is a big deal, I think. Like, there's at least for a few people who like speed scaling snipers or something. But I do think this will be a Special League toxic unit. Oh, man. All right. Fire Joker. He used to have a really bad third skill that just like put dots on. Now it's a strip. Okay, cool. So we now have a bomber who's also a stripper. Like an AE bomber who's a stripper. So maybe a potential for a violent follow-up strip, like a second strip. Like you could bring Hagang into Fire Joker, and then if they ban Hagang, you at least have a bomber You know, you have a strip, but if you don't ban Hey Gang, you get a bomber. I think honestly it might be kind of good. The only problem is that the bomb, his bomb is, you know, has the accuracy bonus, and now you need him to have max AC anyway. So it's kind of lame how that combo works, but whatever. Dark Joker, damage increased by 9% on his revenge. That's super lame. No one cares about this. All it does is make TOA hell harder, maybe. Whatever. Epican Priest, the cleanse. Oh wait, no, this isn't the cleanse. This is just the heal. So fire gets used a lot, obviously. Chloe, and now now Chloe is also a cleanser and has an average heal. Basically, it heals everybody by 20%. So this is actually kind of a big deal because Chloe was already sweet. So nice Chloe stuff, nice Chloe buff. I don't know if I doubt we're going to see water get used, but maybe light also doesn't really get used except maybe in siege, whatever. Pretty big buff for Chloe though. Okay, light Epican Priest, decrease the cooldown on her third skill, but now you can use it as a heal instead of just a res. So it's basically the same as before if you res, but she can use it as a heal, and it's a pretty thick heal. 60% is a lot. So, you know, you throw on a couple multipliers on there, you're basically getting full heals out of her. Like, this might be kind of a big deal, especially since she has a heal on her second skill too. I don't know, maybe it's good. Maybe it's good. Cool to look at anyway. Okay, last buff, Martial Cat, aka Miho. Now she gets more attack bar when you crit her. I don't know if that's enough to bring her back. No one was really using Miho in the last 2 years, but maybe it's time. I don't know. That's not that crazy a buff, but it's a little bit, so maybe. All right, last thing, let's look at the awakenings and skill. Okay, no one cares about the skill AI improvement. So the other patch winner, probably number 2 patch winner, is now Pure Vanilla, Water Pure Vanilla, aka Adriana the Pudding Princess. Instead of res buff, she now gets attack speed, so she's gonna be like 111 base. That's kind of a big deal. So her third skill is an immunity, attack buff, and speed buff. So where I'm seeing that she's gonna be crazy is going to be into as a buffer in front of snipers against turn 2. So you're gonna see her a lot in front of things like Cassandra's. You're gonna potentially see her as a tuned buffer in front of a Sonya, because now you can build a slightly slower Sonya, like say, you know, you build one that's like say 311 to make, or you know, 310 or whatever, with a lot more stats, and then you bring Adriana to attack buff and speed buff it. It's going to be trivial to build a Sonya that just kills whatever you feel like killing. Like, that's going to be the big upshot of this, is that now you're going to see her in front of a lot of sniping units. And then she still has stuff like, you know, she still has sustain on skill 1. She still has oblivion on skill 2. Great. It was already a great unit. Now it's going to be an insane unit. I think you're going to see this a lot. I mean, I don't want to eat my words, but I think you're going to see this a lot, and I'm definitely going to be using it. So try it out. This is big. The other awakening bonus is what we talked about earlier with the Fire Sylph. All they did was make it so his second skill is speed scaling. So now he's like a really good TOA unit. Basically, the king of TOA from 8 years ago is now the king of TOA again, because he now does condition damages and he does HP scaling to kill bosses. Fantastic unit now. Like, I'm probably going to actually go back to using him. It sounds really cool. All right. And then, yeah, Choco Knight. Okay. AI change. No one cares. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So to recap, the number 1 patch winner, in my opinion, is it's a tie between Adriana and Ciara for number 1 patch winner. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Layla, even though I think I might be wrong on that. It could be, I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm gonna say Layla's number 3, and then Rin is number 4. And then, well, actually, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna give joint number 1 to Ciara and Adriana, and I'm gonna give joint 3, 4, 5 to Layla, Rin, and the Light Pumpkin, who's Misty the Light Pumpkin. All 3 of those are gained incredible buffs. So overall, the stuff that's in the patch, I think, is actually really good. There's at least 3 or 4 new units that are really fun to play with. There's a bunch of new toys to mess around with. Cashmere got buffed again. Everyone loves a good Cashmere. So the last thing I want to go over, though, is the quote-unquote elephant in the room, which is why did certain LD5s, Lora and Tianlang, why did they not get nerfed? So I don't know 100% because they nerfed Lora last patch, and they maybe so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that probably they didn't want to nerf her again. So her win rate in G3 right now is 56%. And that's pretty high, right? So the issue is a lot of people complain about Lora. And okay, if you're G3, aka you're up here, then you have the right to complain, okay? At least a little bit. But if you are right here, G1, you need to not complain so much because her win rate in G1 is not even that crazy, right? Like her win rate in G1 is like 52.5%, which to be fair is high, but there have been a lot of units that sat at 52.5% or around there for a long time that people didn't complain about. The reason people like G3s who have to deal with Loras that are like, 320 Vio, it's a big deal. But like whenever you're like, the issue that I have, and my guess is that there may be a few people who bring her win rate up like significantly. So like, and this is like you're trying to deal with like significant outliers, right? Like things like, if one person at the very top has, to go out on a limb, say there's a person at the very top, the number 1 player, I don't know who it is right now. I don't even know if they use Lora. I haven't looked. If that person has like a 90% win rate, right? And then like say the number 5, the number 3 guy and the number 5 guy are all Lora users, or even say the top 10, every one of them's a Lora user and their win rate's super high. Like G3 is not that many people, all things considered. So if she's drafted that much and like a very specific set of people have a super high win rate with her through whatever reason, because again, they may have all the LD5s in the world, then it might be that even in G3, her win rate outside of those 10 people may not be that crazy. Like if everyone else is 52% across the board, but the top 6 people are 56, maybe they're thinking like, okay, we'll buff some stuff and give it an extra balance patch to like shake out, right? It's not an SWC season. We don't got to deal with her just yet. Because as I said, a lot of units will still show their win rate in both G1 and G2. They'll be similarly equal because they're an easy unit to use. And like for instance, the other elephant, Tianlang, as an example, basically has the same win rate in G3 and G2. It's pretty high across the board. His pick rate is really high. It's like 15% in G1 versus 10% of Lora. Still maintains his 52.5% win rate. But as I said, like 52.5 feels gross, but it's not really that high. A lot of the units that got nerfed, like say Wusa, was sitting at like a 50% pick rate with like a 55% win rate. Like he was the number 1 unit with a 55% win rate. Like, so that's like a wild statistic. Like Lora is pretty bad in G3. She's like a 25% or 24% pick rate with like a 56% win rate, which is still wild. Don't get me wrong. That is a wild number. But like Tianlang, but in G1 and also like Tianlang as an example, like, a 15% pick rate with a 53% win rate is basically nothing in G1. Like Ragdoll still in G1 has like a 25% win rate or 25% pick rate with like a 52.5% win rate. Like he's way worse in G1. So I don't know. That's probably the reason why is either they decided to give it an extra balance patch or they decided that the couple of outliers bringing up her win rate in G3 isn't that high, or maybe because the thing is this is like, I think the first time I've noticed it where there's a specific unit that has just an incredibly higher win rate in G3 over its G1, right? So it might just be that they don't balance on G3 win rates. So it might just be, your G3 suck it up and learn to win, right? I don't know that, but that's my guess. Other elephant in the room potentially, and this is the one I'm going to go out on a limb because people ask me about it all the time, or I see it in chat all the time on Twitch, is why haven't they nerfed Haygang, or like why haven't they nerfed Raccoony? And honestly, they don't have a good win rate. Like if they were that good, you should see it, right? Like if a unit is overpowered, I should be able to pick that unit and I should be able to win with it. But people pick that unit and they don't win with it, which means that it either has very significant counters that a lot of people know how to use, or it's just not that good. And I think both of them fall into both of those categories. Like Haygang, for instance, is currently suffering from everyone picking Sonya to kill the Haygang. Because even if you boost over a Sonya, you're still going to glance on it and activate, and then Sonya's going to snipe something before you get your follow-up. Like there's lots of stuff like that, right? In either case, that's why they haven't nerfed it, because I'm pretty sure they do look at numbers. They don't go off of I can't win, therefore, you know, it annoys me, therefore it's overpowered. Like that's not real balancing. That's just your feelings, and feelings are not a way to balance a game. So anyway, that's my, oh, also Miles. Same thing with Miles. Miles Raccoony is a scourge in C3 because it doesn't take good runes. The answer to Miles Raccoony is farm good runes and then just win, because the people who are forcing that draft are making up for bad runes by forcing that draft. So all you have to do is out farm them. Like it'll happen. Just do it. All right, this video has been too long already. Thank you for watching. Hassle me in the comments about how intolerant I am of your rat hating. So anyway, but thanks again, everybody. See you later, and hope you enjoyed the video.